So I can always.
All right, guys, I'm really excited to share this webinar. I connected Rhonda and Amy just a few months ago, and I thought we really need to connect and share this information because we're all on a similar mission to help improve how we age from the inside out. This presentation is called Unlocking Metabolic Harmony, really providing you simple tools to improve longevity markers and vitality. As I talk about on my podcast, is really having the goal of striving to thrive as we age and not struggle, and learning how we can take ownership of our health today and not wait until we have issues. So Amy and Rhonda and I will each talk a little bit about our areas. So Amy, next screen, I'll give a little overview of what we're covering. We'll talk a little bit what we define as metabolic harmony. And we'll talk about the role of the vagus nerve, which I've been fascinated by and kind of led me to connecting to Amy and Rhonda I've known for a long time. But really, what is the vagus nerve? How important it is to function at a high level, the role of what the role and definition of vagal tone and how we can improve our vagus nerve with vagus nerve stimulation device. And then how do we know if we're improving our vagus nerve? Well, that's where Rhonda comes in. She'll talk about heart rate variability tracking. So as a practitioner myself, I would say test and not guess. And I never really know if something's working or not unless we have some type of way to measure it. So we're going to talk about that. And then in the end, we'll talk about what we decided to do is really accountability, how to create new habits. We're doing a 30-day challenge. We'll talk about the finish to help you, as well as myself. It's kind of selfishly, I want to do this and I need help doing it, is being consistent, testing our heart rate variability and our vagal nerve stimulation, different things. We'll talk about how you can improve vagus nerve. Next, Amy. So Rhonda over here, she is someone I met, gosh, Rhonda, 2013, and she's a co-founder of SweetWater Health, and they have a device measuring heart rate variability. I used it for when I had adrenal exhaustion, chronic stress, and I've really found the importance of heart rate variability measurement, not just for stress and exercise recovery, but so much more. Then Amy, I just met because I was researching how do we strengthen that vagus nerve? What can we do? And I found Amy, and we were just clicked right away. She's co-founder of Neuvana, and she'll talk about what that is, a vagus nerve stimulator, and how she's just on a similar mission to all of us that we're really want to give us the tools to take ownership of our health today. So again, we're healthy as we age, living a long quality life. Next. All right. So what is metabolic harmony? Well, I always think of the body as a practitioner. I didn't say who I am. I'm a FDM practitioner and a nutritional therapy practitioner, and previous life, a competitive athlete, triathlete, marathoner, endurance athlete who did everything too much and got, air quotes, adrenal exhaustion. Led me down this path of how we can really figure out our external stressors and hidden internal stressors. From that journey, I've really learned about how the body works together and really looking at we have to have all the moving parts in balance. So metabolic harmony kind of goes with that, and looking at, do we have chaos in our body, sympathetic dominance? So many people, doesn't mean you're athlete or not, it's just we're wired sometimes to go more is better, and how our body responds to that constant stress. And so we have physiological chaos, and then the other side, metabolic harmony. What happens when we're having all the players in synchrony and playing together and balancing each other out? We have the body's innate intelligence, and sometimes we override that by doing too much of everything. So I was talking about the Goldilocks effect for everything, but we'll talk about how to improve energy, mood, how to be more resilient, and really looking at key markers of what I call the holistic method, not just nutrition and exercise, but sleep quality, stress management techniques, movement throughout the day, digestion and gut health, hydration, happiness, gratitude, and play. And all of that comes together being in harmony in our body. So next, we'll talk about the orchestra. So if you're familiar a little bit with heart rate variability is why I wanted to do this webinar, because we hear about heart rate variability, but I don't think we really understand what it means and how we break it down. So we have the autonomic nervous system that transmits signals between the brain and the body organs. But how is that working? I always am curious of the why. So we have two nervous systems. Really, we'll talk about with Rhonda how we measure that. The fight or flight sympathetic branch. And then over here, we have the rest, digest, detoxification, parasympathetic branch. We want to be able to shift and forth between the two. So resiliency. But what we don't think about what happens in that parasympathetic state and what happens when that is turned off. Digestion, heart rate, breathing, alertness, pupil response. We have to have on and off switches, and we don't want to be in one or the other. We want to be able to shift back and forth, or else chaos happens. So we want to create metabolic harmony. Next, Amy. So Amy, actually, I'm going to have her go into the role of the vagal nerve. This is what brought me, I'll just add in with connecting with Amy, is the role of the vagus nerve, because I do functional lab testing as an FDM practitioner and I do nutritional therapy work. And I also look at clients' biometrics, tracking their aura, their whoop, and ideally getting a real heart rate variability test with sweet beat we'll talk about. But how amazing it is to correlate data with people who are struggling with a lower heart rate variability, what that means, and how that correlates with the lab tests and their nutritional therapy assessment when they have poor gallbladder function, when they have ADHD, when they have anxiety, when they can't digest their food properly. So really, we'll talk with Amy about the role. You can see in this great image, the balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic and how essential it is to rest and digest, recover, repair, to be able to be shifting to parasympathetic. Because we have that life is not a race, more is better mentality. So many of us, as what happened to me, get stuck in sympathetic dominance. So Amy, I'll hand the baton to you. Talk about this great image.
Yeah, we all love this image because it's anyone who is a visual person. And if you can't see this, we'll send the recording out so that you'll be able to see it. Excuse me, but there's two sides of your nervous system, like Debbie mentioned. Our systems were designed to be adaptive. So we need to be able to run away from a threat. We need to be able to respond quickly if there's an emergency, if someone is injured, if you know you forgot something and you want to grab it really quick before something happens to it. So those are the kinds of things that allow us to react quickly. That's your sympathetic side. It's also called the fight or flight. So when something is a true threat, then we all know how that feels, right? Your heart rate goes up, your breathing increases, your blood flow increases to your muscles because you need to be ready to move. Now, the beautiful thing about this system is that after that stress response, then your body, the parasympathetic side takes over and helps everything slow back down, allows you to digest your food, puts the blood where it needs to be for optimal functioning. So the vagus nerve happens to be a very critical part of that system. So the vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve, runs from the brain to every organ system in the body. As you see, it's the heart, it's the cardiovascular system, it's your pulmonary system, the lungs, the liver, your gut. So all the intestines, the stomach, the pancreas, liver, and everything related to that. So when we'll be talking about if you are having digestive issues, it may not be that you can be so myopic and focus just on the stomach. Debbie's point in looking at all this is being holistic. Let's look at the whole person, at your environment, your situation. Let me click. So the vagus nerve, you can we're going with the music theme, so metabolic harmony. So you can consider the vagus nerve sort of the conductor. The conductor is going to determine.
Imagine waking up on a day so powerful, so spiritually charged.
Okay. Yeah, if everybody can mute, just in case, thank you. So the vagus nerve we can consider as the conductor of these two sides of the nervous system, right? So once that sympathetic response happens, the vagus nerve is going to slow everything down and bring the body back into harmony. What happens when you have a well-functioning vagus nerve is you have better resilience to stress. You will sleep better. You may fall asleep faster, but your quality of sleep will be better. You have a better sense of well-being. You know that we've all been around people who just seem vibey. They just seem like nothing really bothers them terribly. They're not jumpy. They're not super irritable. That is resilience to stress. Some of you, even just before coming on this podcast or this webinar, may have experienced extreme stress, and you can recover from that and put yourself in learning mode if your nervous system is operating optimally. You have a better mood, you have enhanced memory and balanced gut health. The thing is, so the vagus nerve, we talked about it, it's the longest cranial nerve. There is an access point that is very simple to access, and it's in the ear. And so our company will get to the product in a minute, but we do have a product that activates the vagus nerve through that channel. There's a history of medical devices that are implanted in the body, surgically implanted. Those are medical devices. So there are opportunities to activate the vagus nerve outside of something so extreme like that. We'll touch on vagal tone. So vagal tone is the term that we give to your vagus health. Okay, so it is a measure. Debbie was talking about how do we measure these things? Why do we look at this? You know, whatever isn't measured, you may not actually know what's going on other than how you feel. But it is a measure of stress vulnerability in human beings. So what we want to do is look at what are some of the causes. So as you get older, your vagal tone actually diminishes over time. That's just a fact. It's unfortunate, but it happens. There are things we can do, though, to counteract that. Chronic stress, pounding ourselves over and over and over with stressful events, whether it's physical training, or whether it's you're trying to manage household, aging parents, young children, other responsibilities, and a career, very stressful. Poor sleep, ironically. So these things lead to poor sleep, but poor sleep also leads to poor vagal tone. So it's this vicious cycle, and sleep is we're becoming more aware that sleep is actually at the center of just about all of our health issues. And then physical injury can also cause low vagal tone. The impact is the opposite of all the benefits, right? It's moodiness, irritability, gut issues, anxiety, brain fog, pain, high blood pressure. So the question is, can it be measured? And I'll hand it to Rhonda.
Great, thank you. Can you hear me? Am I muted?
Nope, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you guys for being here, really. We appreciate it. So what is heart rate variability? Well, the best way to understand it is to picture an EKG like you're seeing here. And what heart rate variability is a measure of the time between heartbeats. So you see the peak of the EKG. And so what we do is measure the time between heartbeats. Now, counterintuitively, your heart doesn't beat like a metronome. So if your heart beats at 60 beats per minute, you would think that the beat to beat times would be 1 second, and then that turns into 60 beats per minute. Actually, if that's happening, there's some serious chronic illness going on. What you would expect to see is something like 0.92 seconds, 0.98 seconds, 1.02 seconds, 1.88 seconds, and that averages out to 1 second intervals or 60 beats per minute. Now, what causes this variability? Well, this goes back to what Amy and Debbie were just discussing, we have two branches to the autonomic nervous system. We have the sympathetic or fight or flight branch, and that speeds the heart up. And then we have the parasympathetic or rest and digest branch, and that slows the heart down. And the parasympathetic is where the vagus nerve resides. And the vagus nerve is really important to when you get stressed, whether it's real stress or perceived stress, your heart rate increases, your digestion shuts down, your brain goes offline, your frontal cortex goes offline, and you go into reptilian brain mode. And then the vagus nerve comes in when the threat resides and then pulls your heart rate back to normal. So the two branches of speeding up, slowing down, keep you basically balanced throughout the day. And that's why it's really important to have a resilient nervous system that can respond and recover versus react and not recover from whatever life is bringing you through the day. So let's go to the next slide and look at really what we're doing. So HRV in and of itself is the time between intervals when you picture an EKG. Once we get those intervals, we basically get this list of numbers, and we can do lots of things with it. One of them is a statistical analysis, and many of you have taken statistics and you know standard deviation, root mean square, etc. So it turns out that the root mean square of the differences is a measure of your vagal tone. And this is from 40 years of research, and there's thousands of papers in the National Institute of Health PubMed database that shows that your vagal tone is reflected through the root mean square of successive differences of your heart rhythm. And so that's called RMSSD. And once we get into the 30-day challenge section, that'll all be explained in detail. But for now, just know that using a statistical analysis, we can see their vagal tone. And it's really important for everybody to understand that accurate EKG is required for accurate HRV, because bad data in equals bad data out, and we need millisecond accuracy. So even though, you know, your Fitbit, your Apple Watch, your Oura Ring, they are absolutely lovely products, they don't use single lead EKG technology. They use what's called optical technologies, and that's those little lights you see shining into your skin. And so that's actually measuring the expansion and contraction of your capillaries. And so what you get is this sort of round, as you see in the slide. You get sort of this rounded version that is very difficult to find the exact peak time or beat time. And also it's really susceptible to motion. So as you move your wrist or your fingers with the Oura Ring. So there's algorithms that have gotten a lot better, but still you want to have really good, accurate beat to beat interval times. And you only get that from a single lead EKG. So we support a couple of different heart rate monitors, as you can see in this screen. Any sort of athletic chest strap, Polar, Garmin, Wahoo, they're all really good. And now we're supporting the AliveCore Cardia Mobile 6L, which is a handheld version. So for people who don't want to put the chest strap on, athletes don't mind, but a lot of people just want to use a handheld version. So we're supporting that as well. So let's go to the next slide. And so this is really what we're doing with this webinar, because vagal tone sort of is the measure of what you're going to be able to do with your nervous system. And I do want to point out something Amy said that's really important. Sleep is key. And while these other devices that we mentioned, the Apple Watch, the Oura, etc., they do track sleep staging, and they do a decent job of it. They're not really telling you if you got absolutely restorative sleep. And we can see whether you did by measuring your HRV. So a really restorative night's sleep will start out with an HRV, say at 50, and then when you wake up in the morning, it's 70. And so that's why the restorative sleep versus just tracking your sleep staging is so important. And so there's lots of ways to stimulate your vagus nerve through breathing and yoga, but that's sort of the more difficult way. And if you're trying to create new habits, often that gets put on the wayside. And so the Zen device is this awesome device that lets you just listen to music or listen to sounds, and Amy can talk more about that. And it stimulates your vagus nerve, and then you can measure it with the HRV, the SweetBeat HRV app. And you can either put the chest strap on while you're doing your Zen session and measure what's happening in real time, or you can just wake up in the morning and do a 3-minute reading, and you'll see the change as you go through using the Zen, and you'll still see the change, just not in real time what the Zen is doing. So Amy can talk a little bit about the vagus nerve stimulation a bit.
Sure. Thanks, Rhonda. So Zen, if any of you aren't familiar, and I know Marguerite, when she joined earlier, said that she's been with us for a long time. Our product has been around for a while. We've updated it a couple of times, but the premise is always the same. We use mild electrical stim to activate the vagus nerve through an earbud. Okay, so we talked earlier that there's a branch of the vagus nerve that comes through the ear. You can activate that side of your system with mild, gentle electrical stim. It is driven by an app. So it's app-based, but think of the app as a remote control just to get your settings. And you simply put a little bit of saline on the left earbud, put it in your ear. Just everyone is pretty familiar with earbuds and how they secure in the ear. It just sits right there, and you run 10 or 15-minute sessions once or twice a day. So for the purpose of the challenge, we will be fairly prescriptive about that, but we've been using the word habit over and over and over. So developing new habits is something that I would say that human nature is at the beginning of a year. We want to develop healthier habits. So accountability is part of that, which that's what we're here for, is to help with that. But these habits are once a day. If you're going to use vagus nerve stimulation as part of your routine and HRV as part of your routine, then plan it, set it, and do it. So there are reminders on this, so you can set it and say, okay, I need my morning session while I'm stretching, or while I'm enjoying sunlight in the morning, or honestly, while you're checking emails, right? So you can do that. And then within an hour of bedtime, or within 2 hours of bedtime, whatever works for your sleep routine, then get your brain and your body in the mode for sleep. So that's the simplicity of how to use this. And we'll teach you all about it in the challenge. I'm very glad to be part of helping anyone with any specific customization or things that they want to do, but we'll be fairly prescriptive about that to help everyone on their journey.
Great. Yeah, I think key words, Amy, you said are, creating new habits is accountability, but also consistency. And so being accountable to be consistent to get results, and testing and collecting data to know, is this working for me? What is impacting my HRV? What are my stressors externally in life? What are some maybe signs and clues that have hidden internal stressors? But just how much we can do with this, but how we'll talk about the challenge. I like to stack things. Like, okay, if I do my stretching with my Zen and with my chest strap with HRV, what works best for me? So figuring out what your routine is to be consistent. For me, I wake up and work out in the morning. I'm not good at waking up and then laying in bed like I know someone else I live with does for 5 minutes and scrolls. I get up, wash my face, go make my coffee, go get ready for the day. So morning testing, it's hard for me to do because I'm up and out. But then finding, for me, I have my reminder on my Zen to do 7 p.m. I go to bed early. I'm part of the cool kids that go to bed at 8 o'clock at night so I can get up early. And figure out your routine. So it always, to me, working with clients is, what's your ideal day, time to do everything, and figure out what's going to be easiest for you to create this new habit so you're consistent. And then we'll work as a group in our challenge. We'll talk about next slide on the accountability part, because it's sticking with this is hard for 30 days. So with that, Amy, change the slide for us. We are putting together this Metabolic Harmony challenge you have no cost, just purchasing a Zen device. We have a 20% off coupon with Coach Debbie Potts, my name. And you can use the app SweetWater. Rhonda can explain how to set that up. And we'll have a weekly call to go over this and have good Q&A. I find it just fascinating. We're all unique individuals, and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And that's what kind of old term is biohacking. It's more N=1 experiment, knowing that I can't eat 3 hours before bed. I need to wind down and figure out your sleep hygiene routine and your morning routine and just managing stress. So as we talked before, the vagus nerve is connected to so many functions in our body and our digestion, and really learning about your experiment and sharing that if you'd like in our challenge. So stress management, quality sleep, but I would add digestion, because I started going into this rabbit hole connecting with Amy that I found so many people with really low heart rate variabilities. When we did functional lab testing, found out they had some inflammatory issues in their gut, or they had poor digestion, gallbladder, liver issue, parasites, stuff like that. So then you know when to dive in a little bit deeper and investigate what are some additional sources of internal stressors that we don't know about unless we do additional testing. But externally, we can work on breath work, cold face plunge in the morning. You can do exercise the right amount, the Goldilocks effect, but the breath work and stretching and using this vagal nerve device, I really think makes a major shift that you might not have seen before. So Rhonda, do you want to talk about the challenge part?
Yeah,
measuring?
great. So overall, just go to www.sweetwaterhrv.com, and there's a little yellow button up in the right corner. And if you don't see that, find a different screen. I think someone didn't see it on their iPhone. And click on that, and that will take you into not only see the link to selecting a heart rate monitor, whether you want a chest strap or if you want to get the Cardia Mobile 6L. And then it also gives you a link to purchase the Zen, and it once again reiterates the 20% off code. Now, note that this is only available on iOS devices right now. We had something happen and our Android got pulled, but it's coming, but it won't be available for this. So if you have an iPad, an iPod Touch, or any kind of iPhone, this will work great. And if you're interested in doing this, you can always go on eBay and get a used iPod Touch or something. They're really inexpensive, considering what you're going to get out of it. So yeah, so we will be walking you through every little detail of the challenge, because heart rate variability, as I mentioned, is really just the time between heartbeats. And there's so much information embedded in your heart rhythm, not only your vagal tone via the root mean square, but also we do a frequency analysis. So we can look at the low frequency, which is sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, the high frequency, rest and digest, parasympathetic. And so we're going to walk you through every little thing. So just go to www.sweetwaterhrv.com and go ahead and sign up. And if you sign up today, we're going to offer a one-on-one 20-minute session just to look at your results, on top of the weekly Q&A and result, analysis meetings that we'll have. So yeah, so we're really excited about this. Heart rate variability is the marker, as Debbie's been saying, for seeing your overall nervous system health. And remember, your nervous system is the highway, the electrical highway of your nervous system, of your body. And so you want that to be healthy so you don't get triggered. Every little thing doesn't trigger you. And that every day on the freeway, you get all stressed out at the same backup that happens every day. And it's going to come, and still you can stress out about it. And so by strengthening your vagal tone, and the vagal nerve stimulation is such a great way to do it. You can then drive up to that place in traffic and you won't get triggered and stressed by it. So we're really excited about this.
Well, I want to add in, Rhonda, something we didn't talk about. What I love as a practitioner looking at people's data and help put the missing pieces of a puzzle together for a personal program is looking at not just their heart rate variability, but looking at the raw data, the low frequency to high frequency. And that's what I keep talking about on my podcast when I discuss the role of the vagal nerve, is looking the breakdown we don't get from our favorite Aura or Whoop or Apple Watches. We're not seeing that true data. So when I look at people's data, I like to look at that screen that you have on your app, not just a heart rate variability, but what is the breakdown of that? So low frequency is your sympathetic nervous system, right? And the high frequency is your parasympathetic. So I like to look at those numbers because that tells me, are you stuck in sympathetic dominance? So, you know, not just looking at heart rate variability, but let's go down the next level.
Yeah.
Important part.
Yeah,
Wanted
exactly.
to add in that this challenge is good for all of us. So we've all said that we're interested in working together, but together we also expand our knowledge base, and we understand that it gives us a better understanding of what people are looking for. How can we help better educate consumers or general people who are just looking for better general health, and to narrow the gap between all of the information that's out there and people who are trying to consume it in a meaningful way and actually have actionable insights and actionable education. So while this is a relatively high level overview over, you know, about HRV and the vagus nerve, we certainly can dive really, really deep into all of this, but this is giving us a good starting point and a good baseline. And with the group of folks who go through this 30-day challenge, we're going to be able to better hone a program to be able to help others. So if you look at it, you're kind of part of a groundbreaking program that we're all trying to collectively collaborate to produce.
Yeah. So now we should head to the Q&A section. If anyone has any questions, I can see them in the chat if anyone had anything. So no one's put anything in there now as far as I can see, but any questions, people can go. And Amy.
I had one that came up. Oh, I see Marguerite might have a question. Did you unmute, Marguerite?
Yeah, I have an elliptical downstairs that I haven't used in a long time. I need to. And I had bought some of these Polar to monitor.
Yeah.
Now, is this something that has to connect with your app, or can I punch in the information?
Well, I
No,
think
it will
that it has to be
it'll connect to your
Bluetooth.
app.
Does it have to be Bluetooth Polar though? So I can't tell which.
They're all,
No,
they're all.
old. Well, it connected to the it's an old, very old, but I don't know if it did connect with the elliptical machine.
What we can do, Marguerite, is we'll, in the post webinar follow-up, we'll put email so that if you have specific questions that we haven't been able to answer here or we didn't get to, then we'll answer them specifically directly back to you.
Okay, so what would you suggest we buy then, if this does not work out, so that we can work with the app? I just asked my husband if I could use his iPad, but I don't have, everything I got is Android.
Rhonda?
Rhonda.
Is that you?
Yeah, so you can use the iPad. And so if you just go to www.sweetwaterhrv.com.
Yeah.
And then if you click to sign up for the challenge, it's that little yellow button at the top. And that will take you into selecting your heart rate monitors.
Okay.
And so you'll need a Bluetooth chest strap. Your old one might be the old analog stuff that's made to just talk to gym equipment, and that won't work.
Okay.
So and you could also get the cardio. So there's going to be two ways to do it. You can either do a 3-minute reading in the morning with the handheld, or you can put the Polar chest strap on. So you can choose one of those, and then you'll purchase you'll purchase either Sweet Beet HRV or Daily Beet HRV, which the links are at the top of that website as well. And you already have a Zen, so you're good there.
Right.
All right.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Annie's hands up.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for seeing that. I have a Zen already. I joined a little bit late, maybe like 10 minutes or 5 minutes late, but I was just trying to better understand, is the purpose of taking or reading your heart rate variability to know, like try to like, I guess like what is it called? Like see what personally is affecting my heart rate variability. So, whether it's poor sleep, and if so, I try different ways to see if my heart rate variability gets better. Is that like the purpose, to kind of troubleshoot? I guess that's the word,
Yes.
troubleshoot where
Yes.
the issues are, or what I could do to improve my numbers?
Well, I'll just start and then Rhonda can answer that.
Yeah.
I think more, but I personally connected these two ladies together because I got the Neuvana device and I need to know, is it helping me? Am I strengthening my vagus nerve? Because it's stimulating your vagus nerve, but it doesn't give me, I'm at a 10, tomorrow I'm at a 20. That's where heart rate variability testing with Rhonda comes in, because then I can measure, is what I'm doing working? Am I doing all this breath work, cold plunge, sauna, humming, gargling, everything I can do to strengthen my nerve, because it's connected to so much of our health and heart health. So that's why I like to see, point of it is to see, is what I'm doing working, is kind of what you said. But Rhonda, do you have anything to add?
Well, yeah, no, you're exactly right. Americans spend billions of dollars a year on supplements, weight loss, health devices and whatnot. And the thing is, well, you have a scale to measure if you're losing weight, if you're on some specific diet. How do you measure whether the supplements you're taking or the yoga you're doing, or like Debbie said, breath work
Or my hydrogen water.
Yeah, is it helping you? And so by measuring your HRV, you can tell. It's basically your scale to see if your new lifestyle choices and habits are actually working for you or not. You can even, if you're concerned that some foods may be causing you problems, your HRV will take a dump. We were testing one of our apps. I'll just share this. And my morning heart rate's like 50. It's just a genetic. I'm not an athlete like Debbie, but it's 50. And I was testing one of our apps and I'm like, why is my heart rate 78? And why is my HRV so low? Well, I just eaten cashew bars and cashews. So I actually tested the cashews and it caused my HRV to go low. And so there's so much you can do with this. And that's why we're really going to start specifically to get your feet wet with HRV and all the powerful information embedded there with the 30-day challenge. But you're absolutely right. It's to measure whether what you're doing works or not.
Okay.
Because
Annie,
what works for
she had
one
another
person
question.
doesn't work for another. And I'm going to give one more example. We were part of the Bulletproof Biohacker conferences. And of course, Dave has all these supplements. And one of them, I don't remember what it was, but I took it and my HRV responded positively right away. Whereas our business partner, Donna, took it and hers dropped. So one size does not fit all. And so what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for everyone else.
And you can learn more. Rhonda and I did another podcast, came out yesterday on the audio, but you can find videos I've done with Rhonda and Amy on my YouTube channel, Coach Debbie Potts, to really dive in. And I've done, I think, 3 or 4 deep dive rabbit hole on the vagal nerve and how it's connected to things if you want to geek out.
Okay.
Did you have a follow-up, Annie?
Yeah. So I have recently been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis like a year and a half ago. And now I think I might have another autoimmune disease on top of that. So obviously, if you have chronic illness, you're going to have issues just overall. But would this still be helpful for me, even though, I mean, my numbers are probably never going to look great because of this, but
well, let's see what your numbers are, and go from there. Because I've got the arthritis in my family. I've got, stuff. And
I think
I actually approached it with parasite cleanses, food, removing the cashews from my diet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
Amy
metal
has something.
detoxes.
yeah.
Yeah, but Amy, go ahead.
Annie, you have some really insightful questions, and I think
Yeah.
what I'm hearing from you the most is what we're trying to share, which is everyone is individual. I had asked Rhonda while we were preparing for this, is there a magic number? Right. So I know on our side, on the vagus nerve side, I will tell everyone all day long there is no one magic bullet. Right. And we're sort of trained, especially in America, in the United States, we're trained toward toward quick, some sort of quick solution. And it may require a little more discovery. So once you get your baseline and you see what is affecting your biomarkers up or down or plateau, making progress is what we're trying to do. So while your number and numbers, while your set of data may not look like Debbie's, it may be great for you.
Yeah.
So that's where we're trying to get is, we would love to say that there is one magic bullet for everyone, one special sauce. But we don't believe that's true. And each of us is going to have to do some level of self-discovery to get to those improvements.
And
Well,
my favorite mantra is comparison is the thief of joy. So
Yes, that's true. Thank you so much. I have to hop off, but I will sign up for it and I'll see you guys soon.
All right.
all right,
okay, great,
thanks,
thank
Annie.
you.
We have one more question Karen sent in. What was the device suggested you buy if you do not have an iPhone or iPad? Was there another way, Rhonda, to test?
Oh
or
yeah,
Amy?
you can go on eBay and get a used old iPhone or iPod Touch for like $60. Yeah, I've done that for
So you have
for
to
people
use
that
an iPhone, but just get
well,
one.
you can use an iPod Touch, an
Goes
iPhone,
around.
or an iPad, any iOS
That's
device.
vintage.
Right.
That's a
Well, no,
collector's item now.
Yeah, no, you can still use iPod Touch.
You
Yeah.
can also get those on Amazon. They've got space on there for used and restored
Use one.
Oh,
That's
great.
right.
Yeah, that's
that,
great.
that
That's
are
great.
like a third the price.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
So I will just add, I think, I pulled this up, but what can the vagus nerve damages go up with the questions we just had, but chronic conditions, diabetes, infections, autoimmune diseases. And then, so I always look at why do we have so many people struggling with vagal nerve, poor vagal tone, low heart rate variability, and how we don't know so much of what damages it, but physical injury or surgery, chronic conditions, as we talked about, lifestyle factors, chronic stress, we talked about poor sleep, but poor diet causing gut dysbiosis, excessive alcohol consumption, smoking, toxic exposure, heavy metals, environmental toxins. I'm sure mold would be top one in there. And then chronic inflammation or gut inflammation. And that's pretty much everybody, right? I mean, it's real life that we're struggling with all these different things. So I was going to add that in. That is important to test, but then adding in, we'll talk about in the program, I'll talk about lifestyle practices as deep breathing exercises and, cold exposure, not so great at myself, but if I do a face plunge and do a big bowl of ice water, it's a lot cheaper than a big cold plunge pool. And then, looking at supporting our gut health. And then we'll talk about meditation, mindfulness, yoga, stretching, gargling, singing, acupuncture, massage therapy, and then the biofeedback is what we're doing in the vagal nerve stimulation. And then the biggest one I think is really important, social connections, and really working on positive interactions. I call it my holistic method. My favorite element is gratitude, play, laughter, and that actually can help stimulate the vagus nerve, it says. So social connections we forget about, I think, the last 4 years, how important they are.
Yeah.
So Rhonda answered question, Marguerite, what updated Polar work? Yeah, so Polar, you want to make sure it's Bluetooth, and I think the Garmin Bluetooth works as well, I found with the SweetBeat app.
Right. We
And
have the ones that are
Amazon.
on our website, the ones we
Yeah.
tested.
Yeah,
And then with
so test
Marguerite,
those.
we'll take it offline and I'll figure out what her elliptical is and see which one does both Bluetooth and the analog. So
Yeah, I think
we'll figure out the right one.
Yeah, the Bluetooth one usually works. So Good. Anybody have any questions about the challenge or vagus nerve, heart rate variability? No?
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today, and head to Rhonda's website is behind her on top of her head in her image. So SweetWaterHRV.com to register for the challenge. And hopefully, you guys can learn something in the challenge. I will share the lifestyle, nutrition, exercise part of it. And then Amy will talk about the vagal nerve stimulation part of it, and Rhonda about reading your data on heart rate variability. So no charge. This is something we're passionate about, just trying to help people live their best life, their second half of their life. And
Yeah.
find more on the YouTube channel. I've been geeking out on the vagus nerve lately. So lots of videos on Coach Debbie Potts YouTube. So you can find them on there, in interviews with these two lovely ladies.
Yeah. Thank you all for attending. Thank you for your time. And Debbie and Rhonda, it was a pleasure. We will follow up by email, and we'll get with everyone and send out a recording of the webinar.
Great.
Thanks everybody. Thanks so much. We'll see you at the challenge.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.